All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about one of the shortest and, honestly, one of the most interesting little books in the Book of Mormon. This isn't some epic history or a long sermon. Nope, it's basically an editor's note, a quick explanation from a guy who's literally at the end of his entire civilization, and he has to make this one final, massive choice about what's worth saving. And that's our author, Mormon, hitting us right away with one of the most gut-wrenching opening lines you can imagine. I mean, think about it. He's not writing this from some cozy library. He is surrounded by the ruins of his entire nation. This guy's a survivor, and he's just witnessed the complete and total collapse of his world. And that right there, that sets the tone for everything. So this really boils down to one powerful question, doesn't it? If everything was gone, what would you choose to save? Seriously, imagine you're the last one left, and it's on you to preserve the memory of your entire culture for a future you're probably not even going to see. What stories make the cut? Which records do you save? And the biggest question of all, why those? Okay, so let's get a better picture of the man who's facing this impossible choice. His name is Mormon, and believe me, he has a monumental job on his hands. You know, Mormon wasn't just some dusty scholar chucked away in a library. Not at all. This was a general who led armies on the battlefield. He was a prophet to a people that were frankly disappearing. And now, he's shouldering this final, absolutely crushing weight to be the one and only person responsible for their entire legacy. And just to give you some perspective on the timeline here, Mormon's doing all this work almost 400 years after Christ appeared to his people. So we're not talking about recent events. He's digging through a massive library of records that covers hundreds and hundreds of years of kings, wars, prophets, the whole shebang. And he's got to somehow boil it all down. So his main mission, his big project, is basically the ultimate editing job. He's taking 1,000 years of history from the official state records, the plates of Nephi, and he's trying to shrink it down into one single coherent story. He's cutting, he's summarizing, he's shaping everything for someone in the future he'll never, ever meet. But then, right in the middle of all this painstaking work, the abridging, the editing, he finds something completely unexpected. So he's digging through these official histories he's supposed to be summarizing, and bam, he finds something else, a totally separate, smaller set of plates. And it's a completely different kind of record. It's like finding a hidden diary, a voice from the distant past that was never part of his original plan. And the difference between these two records, it's night and day. The main history he's working on, that's all about kings and governments, big military campaigns, political drama. But these smaller plates, they're intensely personal. They're all about spiritual experiences, personal revelations, and the prophecies of the very first prophets. And this is what makes him pause. I mean, it just stops him in his tracks. These old plates, they're filled with super specific prophecies about the coming of Christ. Now, for Mormon, living hundreds of years later, these aren't just guesses about the future. This is history. He knows for a fact that these things came true, and that gives this ancient record an incredible, undeniable power. So now he's got this big decision to make, right? His whole job is to shorten the record, not add more stuff to it. But he just can't shake this feeling, this gut instinct that this smaller, more spiritual record is absolutely essential. I mean, it seems a little backward, doesn't it? The guy whose job is to edit things down decides to stick a whole other book right in the middle of it. Logically, that just doesn't make sense. So why on earth would he do it? Well, his own explanation is pretty amazing. His first reason isn't based on logic at all. It's completely spiritual. He talks about feeling this quiet prompting, a whisper from the Spirit of the Lord that tells him there's a wise purpose behind adding these plates, even if he himself can't see the full picture yet. And this right here, this is the key. Mormon straight up admits he doesn't have all the answers. He basically says, look, I don't know everything, but the Lord does. He's choosing to trust that there's some divine reason here that's way bigger than his own personal judgment as an editor. So what he's doing in this moment is choosing to be a faithful servant first and a good historian second. He literally puts his whole meticulous plan on hold to follow this spiritual feeling, trusting that there's a much bigger wisdom at play here than his own. Okay, so let's shift gears a little and look at what this choice actually does for the book. Because it turns out, this leap of faith also works out to be a brilliant move for the story itself. It creates this perfect bridge right in the middle of the whole history. And check out how perfectly this all fits together. The small plates he found, they cover the really early history from about 600 BC all the way up to a king named Benjamin. So by slotting in that older record, he creates this incredible, seamless bridge that connects centuries of history. And the guy at the very center of this bridge, he's no small player. We're talking about King Benjamin, and he was an absolutely pivotal leader. He took over a kingdom that was right on the brink of complete and utter chaos. I mean, just look at the mess he had to deal with. You've got his own people fighting amongst themselves. At the same time, their enemies, the Lamanites, are waging war against them. And on top of all that, there's a huge spiritual crisis breaking out, with false prophets and false teachers everywhere. His nation was literally falling apart from the inside out. And yet, somehow, by working with every ounce of his strength alongside other good people, Benjamin pulled off the impossible. He managed to drive out their enemies, and even more importantly, he brought peace and righteousness back to the land. In a time of total division, he was the great unifier. So it started out as this simple act of faith, ends up being a stroke of absolute narrative genius. Mormon's inspired decision creates this perfect connection, linking the spiritual bedrock of the early prophets to all the history that came after. And it all pivots around the reign of this one amazing, righteous king. And in the end, Mormon just expresses his total confidence, not just in the choice he made, but in the future of the records themselves. He just knows they contain great things, and that somehow they'll be protected and brought out for the world to see one day. And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? Mormon's whole story here is about trusting in a purpose that he couldn't fully see. And it kind of makes you wonder, if you were the one in charge of telling a story, of preserving a legacy, whether it's your own or someone else's, what wise purpose would be guiding your choices?